Good afternoon, I'm Vashon Brown with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. The first person who was placed in isolation in Jamaica is to be released today after being tested negative for the coronavirus. The patient, who arrived in Jamaica on January 30 and presented at the Anoto Bay Hospital in St. Mary, was later isolated for further investigation. A sample was sent to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention for testing. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Bisesa Mackenzie today confirmed that the results were released yesterday.
So I just want to remind the public that we have 3 persons presently that are being isolated. 1 person was isolated from the 31st of January at the St. Anne's Bay Hospital. That test result has come back negative. We received the result from CDC Atlanta yesterday, and the patient will be discharged today.
Meanwhile, the ministry says a sample has been taken and sent to the Caribbean Public Health Agency for testing from the second person who was isolated due to an elevated temperature. And a third Jamaican has been put in isolation after arriving in the island via the Sangster International Airport in Montego Bay, St. James on Tuesday, February 11.
The Jamaican who had traveled from China was discovered to have had a fever and was immediately isolated. This patient has been isolated in keeping with our protocols, whereby anyone who has traveled from China in the last 14 days prior to arrival and has symptoms will be isolated and investigations carried out. The next steps for this patient will include management of the fever and any other symptoms that develop. A sample has already been sent to the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, where it will be tested for the novel coronavirus 2019.
Meanwhile, Caribbean countries are in a heightened state of readiness to deal with the coronavirus if it reaches the region. The update comes from Dr. Rufus Ewing, PAHO's Health Systems and Services Advisor for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean.
All of the countries, since the disease was made a public health emergency of international concern, all of the countries within the Caribbean member regions have activated their preparedness plan with regards to leading from the pandemic influenza plan which most countries had. They have updated it and amended them to suit this particular situation. They have activated those plans. Countries are fully engaged in terms of control at the point of ports of entries, in terms of the screening at the ports of entries, as well as doing the necessary surveillance for persons who might have traveled to China.
And in China, another 242 people died from the coronavirus in Hubei province yesterday, and 14,840 new cases were recorded, a huge spike in confirmed infections. At least 1,355 people have now died in mainland China from the virus. 1 person has also died in Hong Kong and another in the Philippines. The global number of confirmed novel coronavirus cases has now exceeded 60,000, with the vast majority of cases in mainland China. On to other news now. The teacher who was charged last week after pretending to be a member of the Jamaica Constabulary Force was remanded when he appeared before the gun court on Wednesday. 38-year-old Troy Chambers of a Kingston 20 address was charged with illegal possession of a firearm and ammunition, as well as impersonating the police. His attorney, Peter Champagny, requested that a psychiatric evaluation be conducted. Mr. Champagny, or Mr. Chambers, who is a drama teacher at Calabar High School, is to return to court on March 20 for a bail hearing. He was arrested on Thursday after he went to the Ellison Road police station and pretended to be a police sergeant. He was asked to produce his police identification card as well as his firearm license, but was unable to do so. He reportedly admitted that he was not a cop. Residents of French Park in Manchester are calling for bauxite company Gisco Alpart and the Ministry of Mining to resolve a problem that has been plaguing their community for some time now. The residents argue that the dust nuisance from the stockpile of bauxite in their community has become a serious health hazard. We have more in this report.
It's impacting our health, it's impacting our pockets.
That's the story of residents of French Park in Manchester. Dust nuisance from a stockpile of bauxite in their community have become a nightmare for them. Wednesday morning, the residents protested against the activity, which they argue is affecting their livelihood.
We have to be cleaning, dusted every day, and it's costing us because when you wash your clothes, put on the line, you have to go back and take it down to wash it 2 or 3 times. It's impacting our health. It's impacting our pockets. Continue every day buying water. Every week you have to buy how many gallons of water. Water is life. Where is my life? Where is my family? The life of my family. My family have no life.
I have a 2-year-old child, and he can't live amongst me. Right? Because he came up here and he's sick. I have to take him back to his mom's place in St. Elizabeth. And it's just a couple of days now. And see there, look at the condition of the place where we have to eat from. Right? People coming from all about come eat. And at this we argue them. Can't work. Can't get them mud to eat.
The animals are being affected. Citizens are being affected. The fruit trees are dying. There is no way for them to be doing any farming. All the trees, all the grass are now covered over with dust, with red mud. Even the cricket field down there, they had a cricket match there recently and they had to stop the match. No recreational activity can take place because of the binding, and especially now when we're having the high winds, it is unbearable.
Bauxite is being stockpiled by Jamalco in Clarendon for the Gisco Alpart Bauxite Company in Nain, St. Elizabeth. Gisco Alpart is currently not engaged in alumina production due to modernization work being done at the plant. However, bauxite is sent daily to a section of the French Park community, mounting a stockpile which is now several meters high.
We need the stockpile to remove from there and no more mining around this area because Alpart, they are not using the bauxite, so we need them to stop the mining.
And I'm calling on the Ministry of Mining to do something. The JBI needs to come on board and to come and look and to put a halt to the mine operation that is taking place. The citizens cannot take this any longer.
Prince Moore, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break, but stay with us. More stories right after these messages. Welcome back, continuing the news now. Students are the main target of persons involved in trafficking of persons. That revelation from the Minister of Education at Wednesday's Human Trafficking Education Symposium at Northern Caribbean University in Manchester. It's one of the reasons behind the Education Ministry's renewed focus on awareness.
While all communities, whether urban or rural, are vulnerable to this crime, students are among the highest risk populations, and traffickers have targeted them as both victims and perpetrators. It is within this context that the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information welcomes this symposium.
In light of the issue, the Education Ministry says it has also adjusted its training to better equip educators to inform children. A police constable and a gas station attendant who were charged with defrauding the JCF were freed before the St. Catherine Parish Court on Wednesday. 38-year-old Mark Gordon, attached to the Scene of Crime Division in Spanish Town, and his co-accused Antoine Lindo were released after the judge upheld no case submissions by their attorneys. The evidence against both men was inadmissible. Prosecutors say in May 2016, Constable Gordon tendered fictitious government gas vouchers for his patrol unit. The gas station attendant was accused of converting the vouchers to cash as part of the conspiracy. During the trial, the prosecution sought to present evidence via the arresting officer on a confession statement that was purportedly made by the policeman's co-accused. The defense objected and submitted that the evidence was inadmissible as it did not constitute a confession statement. The prosecutors conceded and the case was dismissed. The St. Ann Municipal Corporation is now moving to address issues at the Ocho Rios market. This comes months after vendors and the Public Health Department last year raised concern over the state of the market. Here's TVJ's O'Shane Masters.
Following a threat by the St. Ann Public Health Department to close down the Ocho Rios market, significant efforts are now being made by the St. Ann Municipal Corporation to fix the issues once and for all. This is what Chief Public Health Inspector for the parish, Leroy Scott, told TVJ News last year after an inspection of the market.
From our observation and from information that has been communicated to us, they have been using the grounds and other areas of the market to ease themselves.
Residents of various communities also voiced concern as they bemoaned the deplorable state of the market. But speaking recently with journalists, Chairman of the corporation, Michael Belnavis, says significant improvements are coming to the town and the market. He says special attention will be given to the car park in the market.
That area has been in disrepair for quite some time. As a matter of fact, it's been in disrepair for years. And we've finally gotten some approvals and some monies to rehabilitate these areas.
The head of the municipal corporation also had this warning for vendors.
The key to this is that we want the vendors to understand that no vending will be allowed in the car park. Vending will be allowed in the areas designated for vending. So they'll be able to get more customers coming into the market because there'll be clear designated parking areas so people can come into the market and they'll be able to park and do their shopping.
But what about the issue which was raised by the Public Health Department regarding the lack of toilets?
We're looking to get some sanitary conveniences installed within the market area so people won't have to improvise on sanitary areas, sanitary conveniences.
That project is expected to cost some $10 million. In the meantime, Mr. Belnavis says additional work will be done in improving roads in the town. That's expected to cost some $20 million. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Time now for sports. 2012 Olympic double sprint silver medalist Yohan Blake says Tokyo 2020 will be his last Olympic Games. Blake also says he has changed his mind about not doing the sprint double this season.
Yohan Blake taking the silver medals behind the legendary Usain Bolt in the 100 and 200 meters at the London 2012 Olympic Games will be forever etched in the minds of Jamaicans and sporting fans worldwide. After recovering from a near career-threatening hamstring injury, Blake just missed out on a podium finish in the 100-meter final at the 2016 Rio Olympic Games, placing fourth. Now 30 years old, Blake is eyeing his third Olympic appearance. But in describing his performance at last year's World Championships in Doha as poor, he says Tokyo will be his last in the Olympic arena.
I run in the semi-final poorly. That cost me a better lane in the finals, which cost me a medal. But this year I'm more wiser going into the Olympics, and this is going to be my last Olympics, and I'm putting everything to it. But everything is coming on perfectly.
Following his performance in Doha last year, where he also failed to make the 200-meter final, Blake had said he would not be doing the sprint double this season. But with an official change of coach, Blake also has a change of heart about not doing the sprint double this season.
Well, Gregory Little formulated a plan for us, a coach, and it has been working perfectly, going back to the over distance. And getting back my 200, that means I'll be getting back to 9.8 and 9.7, which I know I can. I'm talented, and I see where I'm improving in training.
And as for new coach Gregory Little, who is a former national junior and senior representative in the 400-meter hurdles, Blake says he can return to running very fast under his guidance.
The first time I ran 19:26, Gregory was the one out there working with me on the track the day before running that second fastest time in the world. So I have experience working with him. He knows what he's doing, and he's very dedicated in the sport.
And Blake opened his season at the Camperdown Classics on the weekend, where he clocked 48.24 seconds for third in his 400-meter heat.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a wonderful afternoon.